Hello, welcome to part 2 of our Lay Basics Guide. Reminder that this is game version 4.2. In this part, we're going to talk more about strategy and go over some basic game plan elements, which will build on the essential moves list we already went over. For Lay, this means taking a good look at all his stances, but thanks to the incredibly large number of stances, this part will be a little longer than usual. And it also means that Lay is incredibly versatile in the sense that he can be played many ways. So we're going to highlight the most important elements of each stance, which means we won't touch on every little thing, at least in this guide, since that can get very complicated very quickly. But don't let this guide be the final word. Make note of anything you see that looks cool, and you can certainly build a game plan around that. Note also that we'll talk about transitions last after we discuss the stances. And finally, don't forget about all the resource links I mentioned in part 1. I've included those once again in the video description below. Okay, so enough of that, let's get going. Panther, Tiger, and Backturn all have the same feel to them. You have your scary low threats, a bevy of mids and evasive threats, and many of your tools are extremely quick. Tiger is considered by many to be the best stance overall, at least for the animal stances, but it's also the stance that even those unfamiliar with Lay are always looking out for. The big reason is Tiger 4, an I-15 low launcher, risky on block but has great range and crushes highs on top of being stupidly fast. Very simple to use and amazingly annoying. Tiger 2-2 is normally the mid threat, I-15 mid-high launcher, safe but doesn't jail, however you can delay or confirm the second hit, and the second hit still launches on counter hit, so scary for them to try to punish Tiger 2, which is -14. Tiger 2 also has a tendency to evade some highs. If they're really turtled up and you don't want to risk the low, Tiger 1 is an I-16 power mid, +2 on block and hit, counter hit launch, so it lets you keep up the pressure. Tiger 3 is an I-17 low crushing mid kick that will knock down splat, best used to stop people trying to crouch jab or otherwise low poke you out of Tiger. It's -12, but pressing forward takes you to sitting snake, which will go under I-12 high punishers. Furthermore, you can block high mid in Tiger and even auto parry if you press forward. Tiger also auto blocks lows and evades some highs during the early frames of its transition, so all of which is insanely useful for people trying to challenge it. Panther has a similar approach. Panther 1 slide 2 being your hell sweep threat, lightning fast at I-12, knockdown on hit, splat at some ranges, although very risky on block since the second hit completely whiffs. You can do just Panther 1 if you want to poke, much safer at -12 and still +3 on hit. Panther 2 is the primary mid, I-15 mid launcher, only -10 on block. Panther 3 is a solid low 2, I-20, and if you go to Phoenix with 3 back, it's actually +4 on hit, +19G on counter hit. Otherwise, Panther 4 is the same string as neutral forward 4 if you want to save high mid poke option. Unlike Tiger, Panther has no high mid block, but it crushes highs naturally with no movement. It auto blocks lows and will auto parry lows if you press forward. The back dash is terrible, but the forward dash is insane, so getting in someone's face quickly is no problem at all. Backturn is a bit quirky but still very aggressive since he has so many extremely fast options, which is necessary given that you of course can't block in backturn. To start, the generic moves are all super strong. Backturn 3 is your high kick, I-10 safe, knockdown splat on hit. Backturn down 2 is the crouch jab, I-10 only -2 on block, massive +9 on hit and high crushes. Backturn down 3 is the good toe kick, I-10 also high crushes, +3 on hit, only -11 on block. And backturn up forward 4 is essentially a stupidly fast hop kick that's even a tad safer than normal. It low crushes always, but has this strange tendency to go under highs sometimes. Suspect range on occasion as well, but overall still really good. For more unique items, backturn down 1 is your primary low poke, I-12, -6 on block and stays in backturn, +5 on hit, launch on counter hit, and high crushes. Extremely annoying move. Backturn down 4 is your big damage threat and works exactly the same way as neutral down back 4, so I-20, decent range, combos on clean hit, but you can finish the string and it'll knock down at any range. Or you can transition the first hit to snake or drunken for stance pressure instead. Backturn 4 is your primary mid, it's I-14 and you'll typically want to stay in backturn for better frames. Still -7 on block, but you have 3 follow-ups for cover, which can all be scary, so make them respect those to get your initiative back. Backturn 4-3 in particular is a mid-mid launch and now only -12. But keep harassing with it until they stop ducking, then go for your low. It's not uncommon to simply do backturn down 1 in 4 loops and call it a day. Everything else in backturn is sadly mostly gimmicky, so these are your best options. Next, we'll talk about stances that have general utility or defensive movesets. In other words, these are stances you can use for light pressure or setup purposes, so you won't find incredibly scary mix-up tools, for instance, but they can still pump out damage on careless opponents. First is Dragon, which you're usually hunting for a couple moves. Dragon 4 is your moneymaker, same move as forward neutral 4 that we mentioned in essential moves, but you're cutting out the forward neutral part, which greatly increases ease of use. So it's a true I-10 move with lots of string pressure and also tons of damage if that first hit lands, especially on counter hit. Dragon 2 is also powerful, I-17 mid, knockdown splat on hit, launch on counter hit, +4 on block, and will evade some highs, jabs in particular. Your mix is Dragon 3 and I-16 low that tracks left, only -13 on block, and crushes early at frame 4. Doesn't do great damage, but at least gives plus frames on hit. Otherwise, make note that Dragon can block high mid, and both its backdash and forward dash will evade highs, so you can use that to try to hunt for whiff punishes with Dragon 1+2, a safe high launcher. Next is Snake, one of the most commonly used stances, and we'll talk about why later. Again, you can block high mid here, and the forward dash evades highs. Snake 1 is your fastest option, the full string jails, and it's a natural combo on counter hit, so if that first one hits counter hit, it's pretty nice damage. All of them are safe, and you can go back to Snake by pressing forward. Snake 1-2-1-2 is more mix heavy, it's mid high, but you can transition to Panther with 1-2-1 forward as a way to counter anyone trying to duck that last hit, since that can give you more options against whatever they try to punish with. Snake 2-2-2 is another mixed string, it's mid low, and although the last hit is -17 and easily parryable, you can go to Dragon after either of the first two hits, so this gives you back some initiative. Otherwise, Snake 1+2 is a really good sway back move, a tad slow but safe on block, knockdown splat on hit. Snake 3 is a high crushing mid launcher, so another anti-button move, and lastly your low threat, Snake 4-1 and I-15 low mid natural combo, new to season 4 and very good, +1 on hit, but you can instead go into Tiger and it'll be +4. The 1 is very unsafe on block, but Snake 4 isn't terrible by itself as a poke, it just doesn't do much damage. Still, this string makes Snake a lot scarier. Now Drunken is pretty straightforward despite the weird look of it. It can block high mid and pressing down back will block lows like normal. Lots of mids to choose from here. Drunk 1 is an I-18 mid knockdown splatter, -11 but pushback makes it safe. Drunken 2 is also an I-18 mid, safe no matter what, but 2 back will take you to back turn at +1 on block, and it also launches on counter hit. Drunken 2-2 is also +5 on block in a natural combo but ends high. Drunken 2 can also be done as sidestep 2 by the way. Drunken back 1+2 is a chunky mid launcher, unparryable, huge active window, leaves you an SLD so they get a free grounded hit, which again isn't terrible for a mid launcher. Drunken 4 is more of a traditional mid launcher, I-18 and -12 on block. Unfortunately, your lows here are pretty sparse. Drunken 3 is fairly quick at I-17, only -12 and +1 on hit, but it doesn't do much damage. Drunken 3-2, however, ends in a mid launcher, only -1, and it's a natural combo on counter hit, so not only does it provide cover for the low, but your turn is by no means over on block. Really strong string, it just doesn't do much in terms of breaking a shell. The only other low is Drunken 3+4, which is incredibly slow, so probably only useful in rare instances for the high crush. More unique, you also have a way to gain back health with 1+2 up to 3 times, and up back 1+2, a slower version that regains more health and can cancel to Drunken 1. Try to keep some distance when you do these, since you leave yourself quite open. The goal with Drunken though is to use the quirky movement to bait someone into a stupid decision or to get them to play overly defensive. And then there are the laydown stances. For each grounded stance, Lay has a special stance to go with it. Very quick overview, so if the notations are a bit much, just follow on the screen. FUFT equals knockdown or KND, FDFT equals face down or FCD, FUFA equals play dead or PLD, FDFA equals slide or SLD. And knockdown has a secondary stance, sitting snake, which follows the same general guidelines, you just can't manually transition to it. Lay still has the standard down positions, but he can enter exit his special stances by simply pressing 2. He can also flip over with 1 or down 1. The good news here is that although you're technically talking about 5 different stances, they all work in the same general way, and that you can run a quick 50-50 with a risky high crushing low launcher or a mid threat, which still maintains a low hurt box for heavy evasion. For the sake of time, we won't go through every one, but note that although these are heavy mix-up stances, you have no movement options here, so trying to be aggressive with these just isn't a thing. However, since you can manually go grounded or transition to grounded, that natural built-in evasion makes these ideal for setups and to keep your opponent honest if they play too much neutral. The last two stances are largely situational. I say that because you cannot block in either stance and only Crane has movement, but it's not very good. Crane does have an auto low counter and Phoenix can be cancelled into neutral with down back, from which you can of course block, but the former will only work on lows and the latter takes you out of stance, so not exactly ideal for running any kind of extended game plan from the stance. These stances are also closely linked in that you can get to them from a lot of the same moves. That being said, they still have their uses. For Crane, Oki is a big one, like at the wall, unless you can transition with big advantage. Crane 1+2 is an I-13 high launcher, extremely safe at -2, incredible tool, only real downside is that it's high. Crane 3 is a safe I-14 mid, Crane 3-4-2 is a natural combo and does a good chunk of damage, but the second hit is low so it can be parried if blocked. There's also a fourth hit, but that's mostly for cover if you think they're going to swing after 3-4, since counter hit 3-4-2-3 is a combo. Otherwise, if they turtle, you can use Crane 1 or 4, which are roughly the same speed but not particularly fast. The former is a knockdown splatting power mid, +5 on block into back turn. Crane 4 is a knockdown low, -19 on block, but if spaced well, a lot of characters will have trouble launching it. This is a decent enough mix-up, but since both moves are slow, it's again usually reserved for Oki, like at the wall, where the spacing is ideal. And then finally Phoenix, which is probably the toughest stance to use since your mix-up options are extremely limited. Your only real low is Phoenix 4, which is both slow and not particularly safe. It at least does good damage and gives plus frames on hit going into Snake. Otherwise, Phoenix 2 is your main way to deter buttons, as it's a mid power crush launcher at only -12, essentially a better version of his forward 2. Phoenix 1 has a little sway back, but a lot of moves can still hit it. You can transition to Drunken or SLD from it, and it has a low follow-up, 1 down 2, but these are mostly gimmicks. Phoenix 3 is the same move as Neutral 3, extremely chunky if it hits, but hard to pressure from it unless it actually does hit. At I-14, the only other Phoenix move that's as fast is Phoenix Back 3, which is also I-14, knockdown on hit, counter hit launch, but it's also -7 on block, which is not safe since it stays in Phoenix. At best, you can do Phoenix 2 afterwards if they try something slower than 14 frames, or you can tap forward to go into Drunken and hope they do a high punch. Again, those are some tough reads to make. With so many stances, you're of course going to have many transitions, and they can be difficult to make sense of. I'll try to simplify it since transitioning is obviously incredibly important, otherwise how can you use your awesome stances? We'll start with manual transitions, since every stance has one. For the most part, these should be easy to remember since they're all variations of 3+4, except for Phoenix. 3+4 is Snake, 3+4-1 is Dragon, 3+4-2 is Panther, 3+4-3 is Tiger, 3+4-4 is Crane, forward 3+4 is Drunken Master, and back 3+4 is Back Turn. The laydown stances are slightly different. Down 3+4 is Knockdown, down 1+2 is FCD, down 2+3 is PLD, and down 1+4 is SLD. So your horizontal inputs put you in feet towards, your diagonals put you in feet away. With the animal stances, think of them as a network with a central part and 2 nodes. On the left side or node, you have Dragon and Tiger connected, so Dragon to Tiger is sidestep left, Tiger to Dragon is sidestep right. And on the right node is Crane and Panther, so Crane to Panther is sidestep left, Panther to Crane is sidestep right. The central part of your node is Snake, so sidestep left will take you to Dragon, your first node, and sidestep right to Panther, your second node. But it's central because all other stances can make their way back to it. This is why Snake is so common. Now Phoenix, Drunken Master, and Back Turn are all of course the odd men out. Drunken and Back Turn both have certain profiles, so use them accordingly. Phoenix is a situational stance, so plan that out ahead of time to make the best use of it. Now transitioning from attacks is both easier and more complicated. Easier in the sense that you have to decide ahead of time whether you want to transition, so you should already know if you want to do that or not. From there, do the attack and merely accept whatever your situation is. There are a lot of transition moves, so I think it's more helpful to suggest an overall approach. First, decide what kind of playstyle you want to primarily use, aggressive, defensive, etc. Second, go through your essential moves list or just browse your neutral moves and make note of any that you like that have transitions to the stances that fit your playstyle. For example, if you want to maintain a really aggressive playstyle, try to use moves like forward neutral 1-2-1 up or down forward 1+2 forward, sidestep 1 forward, sidestep 2 back, forward neutral 3, and so on. Next, do the same thing but look at moves from stances. For instance, the new Snake 4-1 is super good and takes you to Tiger. Now that you know that, loop back to step 2 and find ways to get to Snake, like down 4 down or down back 4 down. By doing this, you've essentially made a flowchart, and since looking at stances requires you to look at other neutral tools that take you to those different stances, it forces you to incorporate your whole move list into your game plan. Make a special note too about the forward forward neutral 1 string, since you can get to all stances except Phoenix from that string. Now on a final note, don't limit yourself to one playstyle. Arguably Lei's biggest strength is his ability to throw so much at the opponent that they can never really pin down what he wants to do. So using our above example, even if you want to try to get to Tiger by using Snake 4-1, not everyone is going to let you do that. It's impossible for us in a basics guide to go over every little counter option to every little situation Lei can be in, but experiment a lot and eventually you'll develop a natural eye for what will work and what won't. With Lei, you're going to take a lot of losses to figure all that out, so just keep at it. This brings us to the end of part 2. Hopefully this discussion gets your creativity going and helps get you some wins. In part 3, we'll finish the guide off by going over some quick referential items like combos and punishers, and then we'll end with a brief character summary. Watch for that here in the next couple of days. And with that, thank you for checking out this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe here on YouTube. Also be sure to turn on notifications if you'd like to get alerted as soon as a new vid is uploaded. I also try to stream whenever I can, so the link to Twitch is down in the video description below. You will find Twitter and Facebook links down there too. Lastly, special thanks to our 3 patrons, Tato, Apples, and Overhaul. That support means a lot. Patreon is definitely the best way to support your favorite content creators, and the more support the channel gets, the more content I can afford to do. Stay safe everyone, and we'll see you next time.